He was kicked out for looking homeless. Then the CEO arrived. The marble floors of the hotel lobby gleamed, reflecting the early morning light as intensely as Brockton Hayes's meticulously crafted career plans shone in his ambitious mind. The young general manager, impeccably dressed in a suit that seemed tailored to his very aspirations, barked orders. His voice, sharp and commanding, sliced through the gentle hum of the morning, tolerating not the slightest imperfection that might tarnish the hotel's prestigious image. A mask of absolute control and boundless ambition was fixed upon his face. A few steps away, Serafina Thorne, draped in expensive designer attire, was engrossed in her latest model smartphone, her gaze occasionally lifting to the hotel entrance, a gesture so fleeting it seemed she was bestowing a rare favor upon the world. She remained oblivious to how deeply her grandfather's legacy, now intertwined with her every cell, had shaped this ingrained arrogance. In the midst of that bustling lobby, a silent figure stood, until now overshadowed by everything else. Lysander Thorne. Yet, this time, he wore a suit that bore the touch of the world's finest tailors, his silver hair immaculately combed, and his eyes held a glint of years of wisdom mixed with an unyielding judgment. The young general manager and his granddaughter had not even noticed his presence, lost as they were in their trivial squabbles and displays of status. The words that fell from Lysander's lips sliced through the soft murmur of the lobby like a sharp blade: "The game is over." Brockton, shrugging at the seemingly nonsensical echo of the words, turned with a faintly mocking smile. "Excuse me, sir. Did you say something? I believe you might be in the wrong lobby. Perhaps at this early hour, I could offer you a coffee and—" His sentence remained unfinished, for the chilling blankness in Lysander's gaze had frozen him mid-sentence. Serafina finally lifted her head from her phone, looking at the older man with an expression of bored annoyance. "What nonsense are you spouting? Where is security? Since when have this hotel's standards fallen so low?" she muttered, her voice laced with a thin veneer of mockery and contempt. A bitter smile played on Lysander's face. It was a silent testament to the boundless love and trust he had once offered them, now transformed into profound disappointment. "Standards, dear Serafina," he said, his voice surprisingly tranquil, yet each word sharpened like a sword stroke. "Standards lie not in a hotel's marble floors, but in the humanity within its heart. And sadly, this hotel's heart seems quite stained." Brockton's arrogant expression gave way to shock, while Serafina's lips parted slightly. They still failed to grasp why this old man spoke with such audacity. They saw only themselves, but Lysander saw his own bitter truth echoing in every corner of that lobby. The game truly was over. And now, the curtains were slowly about to open. Lysander Thorne had dedicated 72 years of his life to a singular vision: elevating the art of hospitality. The Thorne Grandeur chain was the culmination of his intellect, his unwavering determination, and, above all, his deep respect for people. Each hotel was designed not merely to exude luxury, but also to radiate warmth, understanding, and a profound tranquility that resonated with the human spirit. For decades, he had held success in his grasp. As his empire grew, Lysander's name became legendary, synonymous with impeccable service and genuine care. He remembered the early days, sketching designs on napkins, personally greeting every guest, ensuring every staff member felt like part of a family. The first Thorne Grandeur was a humble beginning, but its heart, he believed, was grander than any marble facade. Yet, in the last few years, the cracks behind this glittering facade had begun to show, subtle at first, then increasingly evident, like fissures spreading through a once solid foundation. The initial fissures appeared in his relationships with his own family. Especially with his granddaughter, Serafina. Lysander had always seen her as his continuation, eagerly nurturing her to someday inherit his life's work. He had ensured she received the finest education, sent her to intern at the most prestigious hotels around the globe, hoping she would absorb the essence of what he had built. He had shared his stories of struggle and triumph, his belief that true wealth lay in enriching lives, not merely accumulating fortunes. But as Serafina grew, so too did the anxiety in Lysander's heart. The sparkle in Serafina's eyes now seemed focused not on the mission of Thorn Grandeur, but solely on the immense wealth and status it promised. She would speak of luxury cars, designer clothes, and limitless expenditures, yet rarely mentioned the soul of Lysander's hotels, the comfort of his guests, or the welfare of his dedicated employees. For Serafina, the hotels were merely money-making machines, tools to finance her extravagant lifestyle, and her casual disregard for the human element grated on Lysander's soul. He had noticed the superficiality in her conversations, the coldness in her gaze. He recalled a particularly painful incident. Upon hearing that a long-serving hotel employee was in distress and facing financial hardship due to an illness, Serafina's only response had been, "Our company insurance covers that, doesn't it? Never mind, let's get back to business." Such moments gnawed at Lysander. That someone of his own blood could so easily sever that delicate thread called humanity, it truly devastated him. He had tried to guide her, to instill his values, but her resistance had grown stronger with each passing year, like a stubborn weed choking a blossoming garden. He sensed a similar decay within the management team. Especially among young, ambitious general managers like Brockton Hayes. Brockton had replaced Albert, one of Lysander's old, loyal executives. Albert knew every corner of the hotel, every employee by name, and forged personal connections with guests. For him, the hotel was a home, a living entity. Brockton, however, was Albert's antithesis. He spoke in numbers, worshipped profitability reports, and measured guest satisfaction solely by percentages in surveys. He viewed human resources as a cost item, employees as mere statistics on a spreadsheet. Lysander had observed how Brockton incessantly used words like image and brand value in meetings, yet paid so little heed to terms such as guest experience or employee welfare. He remembered a time when he learned that a seasoned chef, a true artisan of the hotel's cuisine, had fallen ill from exhaustion due to long hours. Brockton's immediate reaction had been, find a replacement immediately. Production must not be interrupted. These incidents, accumulating over time, transformed Lysander's internal doubt into a raging storm. Had this empire he painstakingly built, without his own awareness, lost its very soul? Was it merely a gilded cage now, devoid of the warmth he had poured into its foundations? Lysander yearned to see the corrupted soul of his empire with his own eyes, to hear the unvarnished truth echoing through the corridors of his own hotels. As he sat at his desk, surrounded by the trappings of his immense wealth, an audacious idea sparked in his mind. How would he appear beyond these luxurious walls? How would people treat him without his title and fortune? The doors of these hotels were always open to Lysander Thorn, the elderly, wealthy CEO. But what if Lysander Thorn were an ordinary citizen? Or, even further, if he were perceived as a vagrant, scorned and disregarded by society's lowest rung? Only then, he reasoned, could he truly see people's authentic faces. This would be the ultimate test, a crucible for the values he believed he had instilled. His plan required weeks of meticulous preparation. First, he confided in a select few he trusted implicitly, those who had proven their loyalty over many years, his head of private security and his personal lawyer. He meticulously outlined the intricacies of the plan, providing them with secret instructions to intervene only if absolutely necessary, ensuring his safety without compromising the authenticity of the experiment. Then began the arduous process of disguise. Whitened, unkempt hair, old, worn-out clothes, a scraggly beard, an old coat that smelled as if it hadn't been washed in days. He even altered his gait, adopting a slight stoop, shuffling his feet, embodying the tired, hopeless demeanor of a man defeated by life. Fake identification documents were prepared, the identity of an anonymous homeless man, a soul struggling to survive. Throughout this transformation, each time he looked in the mirror, Lysander pondered how merciless the empire he had created could truly be. Even his own eyes found it difficult to believe this alienated reflection. This was not merely a test, it was a profound confrontation with Lysander's own conscience. He was embarking on a quest to find the humanity hidden beneath external appearances, hoping to chart a course for the future of his family and his life's work. And this journey, he knew, would unearth the most brutal truths. As Lysander, cloaked in his new identity, the guise of an old vagrant, approached the grand entrance of one of his flagship hotels, a strange sensation enveloped him. This hotel, the Thorn Granger's jewel, was adorned with luxury and elegance in every corner. Yet now, these very doors seemed to mock him, presenting him as a stranger, an unwelcome presence. His dirty overcoat, worn-out shoes, and unkempt beard seemed to insult the hotel's glittering image, an affront to the opulence he had created. He felt a deep pang of irony, a sense of profound alienation from his own creation. The cold wind bit at his exposed skin, a physical manifestation of the chill he now felt from his world. His first stop was the seating area in the lobby. The plush velvet armchairs looked inviting, a promise of warmth and comfort. Lysander, slightly hunched, shuffling his feet with feigned difficulty, moved towards an empty armchair. Before he could fully settle into the deep cushions, a security guard swiftly approached him. The young man's face wore an expression that attempted politeness but clearly masked a discernible disgust. "Excuse me, sir," he said, his voice markedly robotic, devoid of genuine warmth. "This area is reserved for our guests. If you do not have a reservation, I'm afraid you cannot stay here." Lysander rose without a word. He remembered how he had personally instilled a philosophy in this very hotel to welcome every guest, even the most humble. Now, it seemed, only outward appearance served as the sole measure of hospitality. The security guard's eyes lingered on his worn clothes, then quickly averted, as if his very presence was an unpleasant odor. A while later, as he ambled through the hotel's bustling corridors, Lysander overheard Brockton Hayes's booming voice. Brockton was in a heated discussion with a group of staff members, his gestures sharp and emphatic. "Our image is everything. Guests expect every detail to be perfect. Even the slightest flaw can cast a shadow over this brand we've built with such immense effort." As Lysander moved into Brockton's field of vision, the instant flash of distaste on the young manager's face was unmistakable. Brockton instantly cut short his conversation, pointing a decisive finger at Lysander. "Hey! You! What are you doing here? This is a hotel, not a street." Lysander waited as Brockton's footsteps approached, heavy and resolute. The young general manager looked down at the old man, his eyes filled with undisguised contempt. "You must have been warned before. This hotel represents a certain standard. The presence of people like you can disturb our guests and damage the hotel's prestige. Leave immediately." His voice was a loud, sharp command. Lysander merely nodded, a tremor running through him that had nothing to do with the cold. Brockton's words, though expected, still pierced him. To be seen as nothing in his own hotel, in the empire he had painstakingly created. The bitter taste of irony was palpable on his tongue. He felt invisible, a phantom in his own grand hall. Lysander retreated to one of the lobby's most secluded corners, almost invisible. In that quiet nook, an elderly woman from the hotel's cleaning crew meticulously polished the floors. Her face was lined, each wrinkle a testament to years of arduous labor and life's hardships. She was Elara Finch. Elara's hands were calloused, but her movements were imbued with a profound respect for her work. She wasn't merely cleaning the floors, she seemed to be safeguarding the hotel's very soul. As Elara wiped the marble, her eyes subtly observed the people around her. When she noticed Lysander, a momentary flicker of sorrow appeared in her gaze. Unlike the others, there was no disgust or judgment in her eyes, only a quiet, empathetic understanding. Lysander found himself drawn to her quiet diligence, a stark contrast to the performative perfection he had witnessed. Lysander watched Elara, his gaze occasionally drifting to the city life outside through the hotel's gleaming plate glass windows. Just then, Serafina Thorne burst through the hotel's revolving doors like a sudden storm. Her fashionable fur coat, diamond earrings, and sparkling handbag made her a living embodiment of the hotel's luxurious image. She was accompanied by the hotel's public relations manager and a photographer. Serafina had arrived for a magazine photo shoot, effectively transforming the hotel lobby into her personal runway. Her joyful laughter and loud instructions filled the lobby, echoing off the high ceilings. When she spotted Lysander in the corner, the smile on her face vanished instantly, replaced by a frown of distaste. She turned to the public relations manager, her voice sharp with disdain. "What is this? Since when has this hotel's lobby become a shelter for the homeless? What do you think my grandfather would say if he saw this? Get him out of here immediately. Our hotel's image is at stake." The revulsion and contempt in her voice pierced Lysander's heart like a knife. Serafina was preparing to inherit her grandfather's legacy, but for her, this legacy was measured only in money, not in humanity. Lysander could scarcely believe his own granddaughter could be so utterly blind. A profound sadness settled over him, heavier than any of the layers of his disguise. The security guards, acting on Serafina's imperious command, began to advance towards Lysander. Just at that moment, Elara Finch pushed her cleaning cart towards Lysander's side. Unnoticed by anyone else, she subtly gestured with her eyes. Hidden behind the cleaning cart was a small thermos containing hot tea and a few biscuits. Elara bent down, ostensibly to wipe the floor, and whispered, "I know it's cold, sir. Perhaps this will warm you a little." There was neither pity nor contempt in her eyes, only pure, human kindness. Lysander was astonished by Elara's unexpected gesture. While others saw him as a stain, this elderly cleaning woman had treated him like a human being. For her, the hotel's prestige or image was secondary to another person's cold, trembling hands. This small, unexpected moment ignited a spark of hope within Lysander. So, goodness still existed. There were still people who cherished human values. This small act of warmth was a beacon in the cold, desolate landscape of his experiment. However, this hope was fleeting. Brockton had joined Serafina, exacerbating the situation. "Madam, don't worry, we are handling it immediately. Such situations can negatively impact our guests' experience. We have a zero-tolerance policy." Brockton's voice was filled with a self-important pride. Lysander cast one last glance at Elara. Elara met his gaze and nodded slightly, as if silently urging him to endure. The security guard seized Lysander by the arms, beginning to forcibly escort him out of the hotel. Lysander offered no resistance, allowing them to drag him. As he was led towards the door, he felt the triumphant gazes of Brockton and Serafina upon him. Brockton stood with his arms crossed, watching with smug satisfaction. Serafina pulled out her phone, as if to capture a photo of the moment. "This is a lesson for our hotel's image." Serafina's voice echoed through the lobby. "Only the best stay here." As Lysander was expelled through the hotel's revolving doors, the cold wind slapped his face. But colder still was the heartlessness of his own family and business associate. His plan had worked. He had seen the truth laid bare, stripped of all pretense. Ilara's hot tea and kind words were the only solace in this bitter tableau. His decision was made. This hotel would reclaim its soul. And the cost would be immense. Weeks later, the Thorne Granger's magnificent ballroom stood prepared for the annual board meeting. Around the long, polished table in the center of the room, the company's highest-ranking executives, and, of course, Lysander's granddaughter, Seraphina Thorne, had taken their seats. Brockton Hayes, as the hotel's general manager, occupied one of the prime positions at the head of the table, radiating a smug satisfaction born from perceived appreciation. The main agenda items for the meeting were the upcoming year's budget and Seraphina's official appointment to the board of directors. A false smile, indicating that all was well, was plastered on everyone's face. Lysander observed their complacent expressions, a bitter taste in his mouth. They were celebrating a hollow victory, built on foundations that were crumbling. Brockton opened the meeting, his voice tinged with a feigned seriousness. Esteemed board members, this year, the Thorne Granger has exceeded all expectations. Our guest satisfaction is over 95%. And, of course, thanks to our zero-tolerance policy regarding outward appearance and hotel image, our hotel has achieved unparalleled prestige. As Brockton uttered that last sentence, it was as if, subconsciously, he was recalling the old vagrant he had so summarily dismissed from the lobby just weeks ago. Seraphina nodded in approval, her eyes alight with the glimmer of her impending fortune. Her fingers idly traced the expensive material of her blazer, a gesture of ownership. Just then, the massive, bronze doors of the ballroom slowly, with a grand, resonant creak, swung open. Into the room, with the bearing of a king, entered Lysander Thorne. He was impeccably dressed in a gleaming suit, his hair meticulously combed, his beard cleanly shaven, and his eyes shining with a sharp, incisive intelligence. Behind him stood two men in tailored suits. One was Mr. Henderson, Lysander's personal attorney, and the other, the stern-faced Mr. Davies, his long-serving head of security. Every breath in the room seemed to catch. The executives at the table, jolted by shock, sprang from their chairs. Brockton's smug expression instantly morphed into a stark, pale astonishment. His eyes were wide with disbelief, like saucers. Seraphina's pen clattered onto the table, the blood draining from her face. Her eyes darted between the familiar features of the elderly man and an unfamiliar blend of sternness and cold resolve she had never seen in him before. A trembling whisper escaped Seraphina's lips, Grandfather? Lysander advanced slowly and deliberately towards the table. Each measured step deepened the silence in the ballroom. He stopped directly opposite Brockton, at the head of the table. His gaze fixed on Brockton's stunned face. Yes, Seraphina. Your grandfather. His voice was like a blade of ice. Then, he shifted his gaze to Brockton. And you, Mr. Hayes. Will you not welcome me? Brockton's throat had gone dry. He stammered, Sir. Mr. Thorne. We weren't expecting you. I mean. What a surprise. A bitter smile touched Lysander's lips. A surprise? My coming to my own hotel is a surprise, Mr. Hayes. Or is it a surprise to learn that the old, unkempt man you ejected from the lobby a few weeks ago was, in fact, me? These words detonated like a bomb in the salon. A murmur rose from the executives. Seraphina's face grew even paler, her eyes flickering between astonishment and horror. Lysander turned his gaze to Seraphina. Seraphina, my dear granddaughter. This was a lesson for this hotel's image and prestige, wasn't it? To be a place where only the best stay. Lysander reached into his pocket and produced a small piece of the old, worn coat he had worn weeks ago, now cleaned but still visibly frayed. This coat taught me a great deal. It showed me how deeply corrupted my own legacy had become. It showed me how people like you, hiding behind money and power, forget what it means to be human. Brockton, suddenly attempting to regain his composure, blurted out, "Sir, please. This is a misunderstanding. We were merely trying to uphold our hotel standards. Had we known who you were, we would never." Lysander raised a hand, silencing him. "Be quiet, Mr. Hayes. If you had known who I was, you would have rolled out the red carpet. But when I was nobody, a nuisance, I saw how you truly treated me. You judged me by my outward appearance, seeing me not as a human being, but as a blemish." Lysander sat down in a chair, gesturing to his lawyer. Mr. Henderson, pulling a stack of documents from his leather briefcase, began, "Esteemed board members, Mr. Lysander Thorne has personally conducted observations at various branches of our hotel chain over the past few weeks. As a result of these observations, some bitter truths have been confronted." He then meticulously detailed Brockton's and Serafina's treatment of the disguised Lysander, how he was ejected from the lobby, Serafina's instructions to the public relations manager, and Brockton's callous remarks, citing specific dates and corroborating witnesses. Each sentence landed on Brockton and Serafina's faces like a stinging slap. Lysander delivered his final words. His eyes held a cold, unwavering resolve. The Thorne grandeur was founded on humanity. Hospitality is not merely about providing luxurious services, but about approaching every individual with respect. Yet you, Mr. Hayes, and you, Serafina, have trampled upon this fundamental principle. You have stained the soul of this hotel for your personal ambitions and materialistic desires." Lysander rose to his feet. "Effective immediately, Mr. Brockton Hayes's position as general manager is terminated. All his authorities are revoked. And Serafina Thorne," his voice hardened further. "You are removed from the Thorne Grandeur Board of Directors and the list of heirs. My legacy cannot be entrusted to hands without a heart." The silence in the room was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Brockton was rigid, frozen in place. Tears streamed down Serafina's face, but they were not tears of remorse, they were tears of anguish for the fortune she was about to lose. The masks had fallen. The truth had been revealed in all its stark nakedness. Lysander felt no joy in this, only a profound, weary sadness for the path they had chosen. The shockwave from the meeting room spread throughout every corner of the hotel. Brockton Hayes was, quite literally, frozen. The blood had drained from his face, and his trembling hands gripped the table for support. Lysander's final words were not just the end of a job for him, but also the end of his career. Being dismissed from Thorne Grandeur, especially at his level, meant a black mark in the hotel industry that would likely never be erased. The image he had once so proudly upheld was now shattered by his own hands. Lysander nodded to Mr. Davies, his head of security. "Mr. Hayes's personal belongings are to be collected, and he is to be escorted from the hotel immediately. All access cards and passcodes are to be deactivated." Brockton tried to object, stammering, but his voice caught in his throat. Mr. Davies and two security guards took him by the arms, leading him out of the room. Brockton's pride, once so towering, had crashed onto the marble floors of that lobby, splintering into 1,000 pieces. For him, the doors of the hotel industry were now irrevocably closed. Serafina Thorne's situation was even more brutal. She had always viewed her family's wealth as an inherent right, thinking of nothing but wallowing in luxury. Lysander's words, "You are removed from the list of heirs," signaled the end of her world. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but they were not tears of regret for the injustice she had done to her grandfather or her inhumane actions, they were tears of pain for the millions, the luxury cars, the designer clothes, and the diamonds lost in an instant. "Grandfather, no. Please. This must be a joke. You can't do this to me. I'm your only grandchild. This inheritance is my right, she cried, her voice becoming hysterical. Her sense of entitlement had consumed her entirely. Lysander looked into his granddaughter's eyes. There was neither mercy nor anger in his gaze, only a profound disappointment. You're right, Seraphina. Does your right lie only in a heart that worships money and status? My legacy was built on humanity and compassion. There is no trace of either in your heart. All the opportunities given to you, all the chances, you squandered them. You chose to trample on people. Your right, now, is to face the consequences of your own actions. Lysander instructed the initiation of all necessary legal processes to reclaim Seraphina's credit cards, her real estate, and her luxury vehicles. Everything she possessed was slowly slipping through her grasp. The lobby, which she once considered her personal runway, had now become a stage of humiliation for her. For Seraphina, every moment of her life had been built on outward appearance and status. This sudden reversal had, in essence, annihilated her very existence. Lysander was not driven by a thirst for revenge, he was driven by a desire for justice and to do what was right. In the midst of all this turmoil, he sought only one name, Elara Finch. That elderly cleaning woman had been the sole bright spot in his cruel test. Lysander turned to his lawyer, Mr. Henderson. Please, I request that you find Elara Finch. Wherever she may be at this moment. A few hours later, Lysander waited for Elara Finch in his luxurious office on the top floor of the hotel. When Elara arrived at Lysander's office, she was still wearing her old cleaning uniform, her hands trembling slightly. For her, being summoned to the CEO's office was something she could never have imagined in her life. Seeing Lysander dressed so elegantly, in his own office, astonished her. Lysander rose with a warm smile. Ms. Elara, please, have a seat. Elara sat down hesitantly. Lysander saw the surprise and timidity on her face. Ms. Elara, Lysander said, his voice gentle. Do you remember me? About a few weeks ago, right here in this hotel, as I was about to be thrown out, you offered me a cup of hot tea. I have never forgotten that moment. Elara's eyes widened. She realized that the old vagrant was Lysander Thorne. Her face first showed astonishment, then an expression of awe. Mr. Thorne. You. I can't believe it. Lysander smiled at Elara's astonishment. That moment was priceless to me, Ms. Elara. You showed me that humanity still existed in this grand hotel. You proved that people like you are the true soul of this establishment. Lysander took a deep breath. You have worked in this hotel for many years. I have observed the hardships you've faced, how determined and compassionate a person you are. For this reason, I have an offer for you. Elara's heart began to beat rapidly. Lysander took her hands. Ms. Elara, I wish to gift you a home that will allow you to live the rest of your life in peace. A small, charming house overlooking the sea. Additionally, a bank account will be opened for you, and a substantial sum of money will be transferred into it, ensuring your comfort for the remainder of your life. And finally, I am offering you the position of Director of Employee Welfare for the Thorne Granger Foundation. In this position, you will oversee the needs, well-being, and happiness of all our hotel employees. You will be their voice. You will be my eyes, my conscience. Silent tears began to stream down Elara's face. She couldn't believe it. All the hardships of her life, all her weariness, had found meaning in that single moment. She was not just a cleaning lady, she was a heroine of humanity. Mr. Thorne. I don't know what to say. This is too much. Lysander smiled. This is far less than you deserve, Ms. Elara. Kindness always finds its reward. And your kindness, it restored my own legacy to me. Elara held Lysander's hand tightly. In that moment it was not the patron of a hotel chain and a cleaning employee, but two human beings, brought together by pure gratitude and understanding. Lysander's test was complete. Its results, as devastating as they were also profoundly hopeful. Months passed. A great wind of change swept through the Thorn Grandeur hotel chain following Lysander Thorn's unexpected revelation. Lysander had not only removed the board members and Serafina, but also those like Brockton Hayes from the company, implementing radical changes across all management levels. The newly appointed general managers were no longer chosen solely for their focus on profitability reports, but for their commitment to Lysander's original vision, a philosophy of humanity and genuine hospitality. The hotels continued to offer luxurious services, but behind this luxury now lay sincerity and heartfelt care. Lysander could feel the soul he had personally rebuilt in every corner of his empire, a vibrant pulse that had been dormant for too long. Serafina's life, to put it mildly, had been turned upside down. Accustomed to a life of luxury and a privileged social circle, the young woman suddenly found herself stripped of all her wealth, her family's reputation also tarnished. For her, life had reset to zero. Though initially consumed by anger and denial, with time, she was forced to confront her own mistakes. She was living the bitter lesson of how money and status could blind a person to true value. She found herself having to seek employment, to understand the concept of earning a living, a stark and humiliating contrast to her previous existence. Brockton Hayes, on the other hand, was completely ostracized from the hotel industry. His name was now spoken with a notoriety so severe it prevented him from ever finding work again in the sector. He was paying a heavy price for his ambition and ruthlessness, his once pristine image now irrevocably stained. For Elara Finch, life had transformed entirely. In her small, charming house overlooking the sea, she lived peaceful days. The money in her bank account provided her with a sense of security and freedom she had never known. But most importantly was her new role as Director of Employee Welfare for the Thorn Grandeur Foundation. Elara had embraced this role with great enthusiasm. She had become the voice of the hotel employees, listened to their problems, and with Lysander's unwavering support, implemented numerous improvements. Now, in the hotels, employees' rights were given greater importance, and they were provided with better working conditions, fostering a sense of belonging and respect that had been lost. Though the lines on Elara's face had deepened, her eyes no longer held weariness but a newfound purpose and inner peace. She was not just a cleaning lady, she was a living testament to Lysander's vision, a beacon of human kindness. Her compassion had touched the lives of thousands. Lysander Thorn now found peace in every bite he ate, every cup of coffee he drank. He experienced an inner calm from entrusting the reins of his empire to deserving hands, from building his family's future on true values. He had illuminated a dark corner, thoroughly cleansing the decay within his own creation, restoring its original brilliance. Lysander frequently met with Elara, listening to the developments in the hotels, reminiscing about the old days. Elara's story always served as a ray of hope for him, a constant reminder that humanity still existed. This story whispers a truth: character is best revealed in darkness, for the moment masks fall is when one's true self is shown. Luxury and splendor are merely a curtain, true value lies hidden in the compassion of the heart and respect for humanity. Goodness, sometimes hidden in a cup of hot tea, sometimes in a simple smile, always finds its most magnificent reward at the most unexpected moment. For there is an ancient law of the universe: what you sow, you shall reap. And Lysander Thorn, at last, reaped the fruits of the goodness he had sown. If this impactful story resonated with you, you can find many more real-life stories that will touch your heart, similar to Lysander Thorne's experiences, on our channel. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for our channel, filled with stories where we unravel the deepest secrets of human nature, where the deserving are rewarded, and where justice prevails. How courageous do you think Lysander's plan was? Why do you think Alara Finch's small act of kindness made such a huge difference? And do you think what Serafina and Brockton experienced was fair? Share your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments section below. We love reading every comment.